Hey scholars. So yesterday I finally took the ACT. And basically what that is, it's just the other college entrance exam that goes along with the SAT. Yeah, yesterday was the first time I took it, and I did do paper testing. I didn't do digital testing. Because I guess with the ACT, they're still piloting like digital testing, so it's not everywhere yet, but yeah, yesterday I took paper testing and it wasn't that bad. I actually kind of prefer the paper testing option over the digital because while I was taking the test, it just felt better. Like all of the passages and questions that I had on the test, they were like right there in front of me on the paper. And I can actually feel it, look at it, scribble on it, mark it up how I want to. So yeah, it's really different from digital testing. I got there and we walked in. There was like a lot of us there. There was a lot of other students there taking it. And I wasn't expecting that many people to be there, and the line was like really long. So I was like shocked at how many people were actually there. Yeah, so they checked us in and, told us the rules and regulations and the policies for the test, what we can't do, what we can do. Then they sectioned us off into different classrooms depending on what type of test we were taking. You could either be taking the normal ACT with no writing, or you could be taking the ACT with accommodations, like you need extra time or certain accommodations. And then you could be taking the ACT with writing. So, they sectioned all of us off depending on how we were taking the test. They had the 4 sections: the reading, math, the English, and then the science. And each section was timed separately by itself, just like the SAT. And I have to say, there were a lot more questions on the ACT than there are on the SAT. I knew they were going to be different. In some sort of ways, they had to be different, but I didn't really know what to expect, like how they were going to be different. The English section on the ACT had 75 questions, and we had, I think, 45 minutes to do it. The math had 60 questions with 60 minutes. And then the science and the reading both had 45 questions with 35 minutes. So the timing was kind of weird. It was kind of odd, and it was different from the SAT because I'm so used to the PSATs and the SATs that, this ACT kind of threw me off, but I got the hang of it. Another thing with the ACT is there's a lot more questions, but I guess all of those questions are slightly easier compared to questions on the SAT. So that did help me, but there was, I'd say, the last 5-6 minutes of each section where I had to start guessing, because in those last 5 to 6 minutes of each section, I had at least 10 questions left. So, I did have to do some guessing at the end of the sections, but at the end of the day, I realized that it wasn't that big of a deal, because for the majority of the questions in each of those, SATs test sections, I felt confident about what I was doing and actually knew, the content and all the information that was in the questions. So it wasn't like I had to guess at the end of each section, but at the beginning of the section, I had no clue what I was doing. It wasn't that at all. My biggest enemy with any standardized test, the SAT and this ACT, is the time. Because all I need is at least 5 or 6 more extra minutes, and that would really help me a lot. It's just the time for me. I have to get better at handling all those questions in a certain amount of time. And even when you're stuck on a question and it's really difficult, you have to at least guess now and then probably mark the question to come back to it at the end. Because if you're stuck on a question and you sit there and you try this way and you try that way and you're wasting all this time on this one question, that could take a lot of time away from other questions. So guessing isn't the worst thing in the world. There's still a possibility of you getting that answer right. So the ACT, all of the sections, all the time sections merged together, I think it's like 3 hours. I didn't expect it to be that long. It was kind of exhausting and draining. It was really draining. Like going through each section, and especially the math, because the math section was an hour alone just by itself. And another thing that I found it really interesting when I took this test, was that at the very end, you have the reading, then you have the math, then the English and the science. But at the very end of the test, there was another fifth section. And when the proctor in the room, she was reading us the directions, she told us about the fifth section. And what I'm assuming is that that fifth section has the possibility of being a math section, or another reading section, or English section, or another science section. So, I guess they threw a surprise, like a little surprise section in. It could be whatever, and you have to do it. So thankfully, my surprise section was math, because I found the math to be the most, to be the easiest out of all the other sections. I just felt better when I was like moving through that section. It wasn't stressing me out as much as the other ones. But yeah, they did throw a surprise section on there, which I wasn't prepared for. I didn't know that was going to be on there. At least you know now that there's going to be a fifth section on that test. But yeah, that was my ACT. So if you or any of you out there are going to be taking the ACT soon, or you definitely plan on taking it, you definitely should, and try some online practice tests, because those helped me. I wish you some good luck on your ACT, and I hope that my experience with it has, given you some insight on it.